all Anthony Albanese wanted to talk about today was Medicare and rebates for mental health teleconsultations. It was a bread and butter sort of campaign announcement designed to tick all the right boxes. Medicare, tick. Mental health, tick. Better services for rural Australia. But after his day from hell yesterday, that was the last thing anyone else wanted to discuss. Every question challenged his fitness for office. Were his figures for insecure work dodgy?
Could you explain your comments on this change in the workforce?
We're not exaggerating the level of insecure work, and there's a range of areas in which it's happening. Casualisation is one of them. The contracting out with labour hire companies is another.
How could he talk about jobs if he didn't know the jobless rate?
Can you promise Australians that you are across the details of the economy, or are you out of your depth?
I'm absolutely across the economy and what we need to do, which is why I have a practical plan to deal with the economic challenges that Australia faces. I have an economics degree from Sydney University. I studied both orthodox economics and political economy. I spent 4 years there doing it, and then I became an economic policy advisor to the Hawke government.
Was he up to it?
Do you concede that you've got less chance of winning the election today than 2 days ago?
Look, yesterday I made a mistake, and guess what? I fessed up to it. And you probably made a mistake from time to time, Andrew. There are other people who've made mistakes with numbers even today.
You get the drift, don't you? On and on it went for half an hour on the general theme of was his campaign doomed? And the government piled on too. Here was the PM.
Sure, he didn't know the number, but he didn't miss it by that much. He missed it by that much. And what matters about that is he thought unemployment had a 5 in front of it, not even a 4 in front of it. And it's going to a number with a 3 in front of it. And what that tells me is his working assumptions about our economy and what Australians are achieving in our economy, he doesn't know.
And the Treasurer.
And yesterday, Australians were reminded by Anthony Albanese of why he's out of his depth. On budget night, I said very clearly the unemployment rate was its equal lowest in 48 years at 4%. He simply was not listening, or maybe he didn't want to know.
And look, it was a very bad mistake yesterday. More than a mistake, it showed a cavalier attitude to the most important domestic issues in any campaign: jobs and cost of living, or worse, an alternative Prime Minister who was really playing out of his league. Just as bad, his campaign team and office minders have their head in the sand, thinking they can mop up his lack of economic nous with endless repetition of his university history, now 40 years old.
I'm Anthony Albanese, graduating in economics at Sydney Uni and serving 6 years as infrastructure minister taught me what makes our economy tick.
Sydney Uni got a run again today. I mean, I did poetry at university, but I don't claim to be a poet. It doesn't wash, and everyone knows Albanese has used up his one get out of jail free card when it comes to campaign mistakes. From here on in, he gets no leeway. Now, in a campaign, when you've had a shocker, the biggest test is how you recover. That's the most important trait in a leader. It's temperament. Can the leader handle disappointment and even disaster without succumbing to despair? Because as much as anything else, politics is a confidence game. These judgments on Albanese's temperament and how he has recovered are inevitably subjective. But I thought that today the opposition leader made the best of it. He fronted up. He had no real alternative, did he? He took his medicine and he tried to move on. Although this Taylor Swift reference for a bloke 1 year shy of 60 years of age, well, I thought it was cringeworthy.
Here's a Taylor Swift comment for you. My theory is shake it off.
Now, don't get me wrong, yesterday was a very, very poor start to Labor's campaign. But saying Albanese can't win from here is silly, and it's as silly as saying that last week Morrison couldn't come back from the bad polls. There's a long way to run, and this campaign could still go either way. And he can perhaps put a good part of his recovery down to Mr Howard.
Anthony Albanese didn't know the unemployed. All right, so what?
Now, for me, it's all less about the daily drama than the underlying policies that count. In between bagging the opposition leader, today the Prime Minister talked jobs, 1.3 million over the next 5 years.
It's the biggest economic opportunity since the post-war era, and we're well positioned to take advantage of that with our economic plan. And that's why today we can commit to a 1.3 million jobs target pledge over the next 5 years.
And in between defending himself, the opposition leader, he also talked jobs, 600,000 supposedly created from green energy. It's just that the government's jobs plan doesn't involve any new policy. It's just what the government could be expected, more or less, automatically to create over the next 5 years. And the opposition's plan is based on modelling that makes a whole lot of highly improbable assumptions. Neither leader wants to talk about spending less and taxing more or changing anything that might upset anyone else, unless, of course, it's billionaires, banks and foreigners. That's the pity for me of this campaign. In the end, someone's going to win it. But who is Prime Minister is the only thing this campaign will decide. The policies needed to make Australia stronger and more prosperous in the decades to come, well, they're hardly rating a mention.